So at the start of the year, I made some writing goals on this channel. I'll link that video below in case you haven't seen it. And now January is over and it's been a full month of writing, and it's been a pretty good month of writing. So I thought I'd just come on, give you an update of how many words I've written, what the process was like, what that translates to in terms of progress in my novel, how many short stories I've written, how many rejections I've got, how that compares to my goals, and just generally review the month, having managed to write every single day, which was one of my goals. So yeah, let's get into the stats, and as we go, I'll just inform you of what the kind of month was like as a whole. Okay, so I put this graph together, and this shows the number of words that I wrote every day. So yeah, you can see that here I wrote every day, which was great. I'm usually just below that 500 mark, it seems. Some days it's less, some days when I'm feeling inspired it's more. But generally speaking, that's where we're sitting. And then I think another trend you can see is that definitely the numbers get lower as the month goes on. And I think that's partly because I find it much easier to work on the short stories than I do the novel. The novel generally is like such a trudge. I just feeling like I'm wading through muddy water when I'm writing it. It's really, really difficult, but that's okay. You know, I expected that. And I think, you know, this system of just making sure you sit down and do a bit, you know, it is all going to add up eventually. Okay, so just to break a few of those numbers down, the most words I wrote in one day was 1,723, least was 118, average words per day, 528, bringing the total to 16,369. And then that translates into 3 short stories and just over 9,000 words in my novel. So all in all, like, I'm pretty happy. Even though some days I just turned up and did just over 100 words, it all adds up, and it's all about that cumulative effect. And then in terms of what that looks like for submissions, so I wrote 3 new short stories this month, but only the first drafts. I haven't worked on the second drafts yet, so all the submissions were based on what I call like trunk stories, which is stories that I've written before. They're polished, they've been edited, but I haven't found a home for them. So I managed to do 6 submissions, and I got 2 rejections in the time, just in January. One of those was a form rejection, and one of them actually was quite positive. One of them was more personalized and contained quite a nice compliment in there. So as writers, we get used to taking our very, very small wins when we can get them, and that was certainly one for this month. All right, and so how does that look for my total progress towards my goals at the end of January? Well, I've written 3 out of the 10 short stories that I plan to write, so that's 30% done. The novel, the first novel of 2 that I plan to write this year, is about 19% done. This also does include some words that I wrote at the end of last year. They weren't all written this month, but still. And then the rejections is just 2%, so 2 out of the 100 that I'm hoping for this year. The thing about the rejections is they're gonna have, like, they'll cumulatively pile up. So obviously I've only got 4 stories in circulation at the moment. By the end of this month, I should have another 3, as I've kind of done second and third passes on the stories I wrote this month. So that'll be 7 in circulation. The following month, hopefully it'll be 10. So maybe by about halfway through the year, I'll have about 14 stories in circulation. So that'll give me a chance to really rack up those rejections. And then because of that, I think obviously February is going to be slightly different, because I'll be working on the novel. Maybe I'll work on 1 short story. But I'll also be doing those rewrites and revisions. I think I'm going to set aside maybe a Sunday to just focus on that. I don't quite know how it's going to work, but it's going to be a slightly different month anyway. And I'm looking forward to, because this month was really just about drafting, getting the words down, make sure you get them down. And next month is going to be more like fine tuning, which I prefer. I think most of us do. And then I think the final thing to say is just that, like, so far I'm really, really happy with how things are going. My goal of just making sure I write every day, and that being the only goal, and letting myself off the hook if I just want to do 100 words or if I'm really inspired. Usually moments when I'm inspired, that's kind of like, usually it's coming up to the end of a story, like the end is in sight, and I'll just sit there and power through the ending. And then usually the really bad stuff is when, mostly the novel, and mostly I'm just wading through the just kind of meandering and not really having a strong direction of where to go next, and having this sense of like, oh, I kind of know what the ending is, but there's so much, you know, I don't really know how we're gonna get there. So I think that's part of the issue as well. But, you know, that's just part and parcel. It just is what it is. And I'm making progress, and that's the important thing. And like I say, just having this no word count goal, you can just turn up and you can just write 100 words if you want to. It's been really, really helpful in getting me in front of the computer. And most of the time, you don't do that, right? You don't feel like it, but you do 2, you do 2, 3, you do 4. And it all adds up, you know, over 16,000 words for the month. And it's probably one of the most productive months I've ever had, so it's going really, really well. And that positive rejection as well, if such things exist, and I think that they do. That was really nice to get. One of the editors compared my story to a book called House of Leaves by Mark Danielewski, which was a great compliment. So, you know, all in all, I think you can tell I'm feeling really positive. Let me know how your month has gone. How's your writing gone this month? What changes are you going to make? How are you going to improve for next month? And wish me luck for February. And I'll see you on Wednesday for the next video.